Today, which happened to be the Adventist Aids International Ministry Day, a day to commemorate the World AIDS Day. The actual day for World AIDS Day is December 1st, but the church decided to choose today so that we can encourage ourselves and encourage people living with HIV and AIDS, and also look for ways that we can prevent ourselves from contracting the virus. Before I go into the sermon proper, I think I'm in a privileged position to give us the progress so far about HIV and AIDS. Because throughout my stay in Babcock University, I was the pharmacy focal person of HIV of the antiretroviral clinic. I was the one responsible for getting their medications for them, and I interacted with them on daily basis. In Babcock University, I think we have about 630 patients. We don't call them patients, we call them clients, because they are not patients, they are just people living with the virus. Now, we have that number of people, and every day they come to the clinic to assess their medications. Now, we sit down with them, interact with them on daily basis. Throughout my 7 years, I was always with them, talking to them. Now, you know, the major problem we have with this condition is the stigma. The stigma, you know, they will come to the clinic, they don't want anybody to see them. They just dodge into the clinic and get their medication. If they see anybody that they know, they will find a way to hide before coming in. And that's the way we normally do it. In case they know somebody, they will find a way to get their medication for them and give them. Then there are a lot of progresses. I think we have HIV. I think, let me just say, it started 4 decades ago. They discovered it 4 decades ago. That is in 1981. That is when HIV was discovered. Then the virus was isolated in 1983 or so, before I was born. But up to now, we are still battling with HIV. But the good thing is that we have achieved a lot from that time till date. Before now, if a woman is pregnant, you know she cannot breastfeed her baby. But it's not the same now because of the highly active antiretroviral drugs. And another thing again, you can see discordant couples. One is positive, one is negative. And they'll still be living happily. And the other person will be able to transmit the virus because of the highly antiretroviral drugs. And another thing again is that, another progress is that the drugs before, they have this kind of side effect, adverse effect, terrible adverse effect. Some of them is the adverse effect that used to discourage them from taking the medications. But now, some of the drugs, so some of them are devoid of adverse effect. The adverse effect, they are minimal. Because anytime we give a new patient, we initiate the patient on antiretroviral drugs. That's what we call remote monitoring. We monitor the patient for that first period. I think for a period of about 6 months or so. We'll collect the patient number. I'll be calling the patient to find out whether he's reacted to medication or not. At times, some of them, they will tell you that they're not feeling anything. The drug is just okay. They're not feeling anything at all. You can see the drugs are just like normal drugs. They're devoid of adverse effect. Another thing again is that there's another program. They call it differentiated service delivery. Those that are already stable, you don't need to disturb them to come to the facility and collect the medication. You can send the drugs to them. Then after sending the drug, you call them to find out whether they have gotten the drugs. You know, that is the thing, because they just want to simplify the whole thing in such a way that anybody can just come in and get his medications without any stress. And the drugs are very, very effective in such a way that some of the clients, if you if they do their viral load, you'll discover that it will not be detected completely. I have some clients like that. Their viral load is undetected. Such individuals cannot transmit the virus. They can't transmit it because one of the major reasons for placing patients on antiretroviral medications is to reduce mortality and also to reduce mobility, and at the same time to also prevent them from transmitting the virus. Now, if you have a client that the virus cannot be detected, you know that client cannot transmit the virus. That is why in our facility, we have a target. Any client that is accessing medication in the facility, the viral load must be less than 20 copies. That is the standard. Even though in our own facility, other facility but their own facility it must be less than 20 copies. Because the reason being that if your viral load is less than 20 copies, transmit the virus is going to be difficult. You won't be able to transmit the virus to another person. That is why we still have discordant couples. You see two couples sitting down together, living happily, giving birth to children without any issue. It's no longer a problem again. Now, one of the things that even that I think the thing was just, it was like a listen to me. We have a client. I think that client is Babcock staff. The client came to the facility. I think the two of them were tested. The wife was not feeling too well. She was admitted. They now discovered that the wife was positive. Two of them came to the facility. If you see the kind of encouragement that the husband was encouraging her, the husband was tested negative, but he stood by her. He was encouraging her, and the woman gradually, because of that kind of encouragement, the woman was recovered because she was seriously ill, and he kept on telling me that I think she contracted the virus from Babcock, because she is one of the domestic staff. They are the one that do the cleaning and other things like that. Now he was trying to tell me that I told you no, you cannot conclude, but the only thing is that just stand by her and encourage her, and that's what the man was doing. Up to now, they are living happily. The man is negative and the woman is positive, and they are living happily and they have children. Now, HIV now is no longer a serious problem like before, but we still need to educate ourselves, because one of the things I normally say is that the people that have the tendency of transmitting the virus are people that they don't know their HIV status. Those individuals, if you come across those individuals, they can easily transmit the virus. But those that are under treatment, their viral load is under control. Now that is why we are being admonished to go and know our HIV status. It's very, very important, because it's no longer a problem. You can take your drugs just like any other thing. What I used to tell my client is that some of them will be complaining, how can I be taking pills every day? I will tell them, no, it's just like any other condition. There are some conditions that you still need to take your pills every day: diabetes, hypertension, and co. But HIV it's just like any other condition. Since the drugs are not having serious side effects, you can just take it like your normal food, because you can't tell me that you can skip your meal in a day and you'll be all right. It's just the same thing. You have a drug to take, just put it in your mind that you are going to take this drug every day, and it's a normal thing. You continue your normal life, and your viral load will be on check. Now, that is the little I can tell us concerning the HIV and AIDS. Let me go into the sermon. The topic or the theme for this Adventist Aids International Ministry Sabbath is Bloom Where You Are Planted. This sermon is written by Dr. Bakwato Sikwa Ramabu. That is the one that wrote the sermon for the week. Now I wanted to know, to bloom, what is the meaning? What does that mean, to bloom? Because it's to produce, or to yield flowers, or to blossom, or to flourish, or to nourish, to thrive, to prosper, to germinate, to fructify, to wax. Anywhere you are expected to bloom. Then, if you go into the sermon proper, you discover that he gave us 3 characters. Some of these characters, they are the characters in the Bible. their lifestyle that we need to emulate. One of them is Joseph. We all know the story of Joseph. Joseph lost his mother early in life. That is Rachel, of childbirth, when delivering Benjamin. That's Joseph's young brother. His older brothers hated him to the point of wanting to kill him. They even sold him as a slave to foreigners. Joseph had to learn to survive in a foreign country with everything different from his home: language, food, culture, dressing, religion. He had to drop from being a favorite son to less than a servant, a slave with no choice, no status. He became a prisoner in this foreign land, and he was falsely accused. Yet, every phase of this life, he strove to blossom. He became a master in Potiphar's house. This means he mastered the language, culture, and applied himself to be trusted. Even after being thrown in prison, he again rose to the top to become a monitor in prison. You can see the lifestyle of Joseph. So the warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in prison. I was made responsible for all that was done there. Joseph indeed eventually ended up in Pharaoh's palace as the second in command for all Egypt. But that was just an icing on the cake. That was his well-lived life. His blossom of Joseph's life is not his entering the palace. It is his character and lifestyle. He bloomed at every stage of life where he was planted. What was the secret of Joseph? It was the God he served. The warden paid no attention to anything under Joseph's care because the Lord was with Joseph and gave him success in whatever he did. If you look at Genesis chapter 39, verse 23. As a plant, Joseph's roots were deeply embedded in the fountain that is God. Jesus said, I am the vine and you are the branches. Without me, you can do nothing. You can see that in John chapter 15, verse 5. Joseph emulated that, and having this connection meant nothing could keep him down. Even his siblings that hated him, they couldn't keep him down. They sold him, and he was still strong because of the God he was serving. Now, another character again that I want us to look at is Ruth. We know the story of Ruth in the Bible. If you go to Ruth chapter 1 to 4, you will see the story starts where things were bad. She has lost both her husband and her father-in-law at a time where a woman had no status in society and needed a male figure to give her legitimacy. She opted to go with her mother-in-law, that is Naomi, to a foreign land out of love. Sometimes love can be very costly. In Israel, she has bad circumstances. A foreigner from a group of people that Israelite did not associate with, that Israel did not associate with. A widower to a destitute mother, that is Naomi. Her only means of survival is to glean the field. That is, gleaning means to picking up a few leftover from the field. After harvest, people go there to pick. That was what our source of survival. But she continued. She persisted. Be it forgotten or discarded. This is what Ruth had to survive on. Yet, we see her very diligent at what she does to the point of being noticed by a rich farmer, Boaz. as we know, ultimately, Ruth get married to Boaz. That is one of the things that happened. Because she persisted. She was not actually strong because of what happened to her. But Ruth did not give up. Is there a widow here or orphan? Unfortunately, we know that death is real. You cannot, it's something that you can't tell me that you have the power to avoid death. When death comes your way, it will pick you. There's nothing you can do about that. Now, we know the condition we are talking about, that is HIV. We know it has taken so many lives, including children, that they born them with the disease. They are innocent children. Let me just say innocent children. They born them with that disease. They don't know anything. They just discover they are HIV positive. And some of them lost their lives as a result of it. But we can't question God. According to USAID, as of December 2024, there were 13.8 million children under the age of 18 years who had lost one or both parents due to HIV and AIDS. But having been left behind by loved ones should not make us give up on our lives. We must weep. It's a normal thing for us to weep. But as the Bible says, do not weep like those who do not believe. You can see that in 1 Thessalonians chapter 4, verse 13. God has 1,000 ways to provide for his erring children. You need to get up and stop feeling sorry for yourself. Look around and see where God has planted you. What can you do to start your process of blooming? Can you be a grandmother to some children in the neighborhood? It doesn't take much. Like there are some countries that have this kind of a club, that is grandmother's club. That is under the Adventist Aids International Ministry. They have this Lesotho, example of the country is Lesotho and Cameroon. And their work is to support those children that lost their parents as a result of this HIV and AIDS. They make themselves available for the young around them. They are blooming right where they are planted. What will be your own story? Because me, I have a story to say. I remember one of my uncle. There was a time he had a problem and he started insulting God. He sat down, he was just insulting God. He's the first person that I've seen him insulting God in public. He was angry with God because of what happened. I think that time they went and cultivated cassava or something. They peeled the cassava, they kept it outside. Then rain came and beat the cassava. And that thing got him upset. He started insulting God. I say, why are you insulting God? Because our God is a merciful God. But if not because of that, how can you insult somebody that created you? That's what he did, because he was angry with God. You can be in a situation that you will discover that you're hopeless. But if you believe in God, he will see you through. Then another character in the Bible that the writer gave us is Paul. We know Paul was an educated man, well-read and well-placed in the society, known for his quality of being, he was a religious person. After meeting Christ, he found himself an outcast, unwanted by the people he previously worked with, even haunted as a traitor, not fully trusted by the brethren who knew faith he had embraced. Without a family or acceptance, he was a lonely man. Eventually ended up in prison. He was sentenced to death. But Paul did not give up. You look at the story very well. Even in prison, he said something that all of us can also attest to it. That is in Romans chapter 8, verse 31. If you look at it, he said, what can separate us from the love of Christ? I don't think there's anything on earth that's supposed to separate, that can come our way with Christ. That thing doesn't exist. That is the statement of Paul. Even being in prison, he still trusted God and he believed in God. Somebody that was sentenced to death. I used to relate it to that, my uncle's story. Your own was just cassava, but you went to this and started. But you can see, we can be in a situation that we will look as if God is no longer with us, and this God is not kind to me. It's not, we will just be in a hopeless situation. But if you believe in God, He will see you through. In conclusion, blooming where you are planted, about growing and maturing in the good season of life and the tough season of life. Even when we don't always have a choice in where we are planted, we reach higher levels of spiritual maturity when our faith is tested. All of us have different circumstances. It may be like that of Joseph, Ruth, Paul, or you have a challenge at home, socially despised for your status, and as an ex-prisoner, or a mother with a child born out of wedlock, or a divorcee, or a mentally unwell person, or a person living with disability, or a person living with HIV and AIDS, or an alcoholic, a drug addict. There is no state in which God cannot reach you. Reach out to Him and get nourished, so you too can bloom. Stop focusing on what you lost, but look at who you are now. What do you have at this point? It may be only a piece of farmland, maybe a simple roof over your head. Dedicate that to God and tell Him you want to bloom right where He has planted you. But remember, no one blooms overnight. It is a process. Blooming with grace also means being gracious, patient, and kind to those around us. When Joseph flourished, he shared what he had with his brothers, even though they are the one that sold him. But he showed them that mercy, this thing. Instead of harboring bitterness toward them, he didn't harbor that bitterness. He showed them love. God calls us to be His witnesses wherever we go. When we bloom in tough situations, we show others that our strength comes from God. Our lives testify to God, faithfulness, resilience, and grace. As Matthew chapter 5 verse 16 says, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. Whether in a season of waiting, dealing with hardship, or adjusting to a new situation, blooming where we are planted, let others see God's love at work in us. It is not always easy, but by trusting in God and staying rooted in His words, we can strive and reflect His glory no matter where we are. This is the message. May the Almighty God help us all.